Check. All right. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. We're going to see how the video goes. The upload speeds in the studio are pretty atrocious right now. The speeds, I'm getting 2 megabits per second up right now on the Wi-Fi in here, and I'm trying to, move my computer around. There's a lot of new electronic equipment around the computer, so I don't know if it's disrupting the Wi-Fi signal in here. They gave me a wire at one point, but the wired connection was actually slower than the Wi-Fi, so I stopped using it. And yeah, that connection's gone now because they rewired the whole studio, so that connection is gone anyway. So I don't even have the option to go to a wire now. So I tried doing it off my cell phone hotspot, and I was getting marginally better signal coverage from the cell phone hotspot. So we'll do our best with what we've got here, and if it gets too awful, we'll have to call it early, but we'll see what we can do. So first off, questions. Let me know what questions you guys have, and I'm going to go through those. And I don't have it, like I said, I don't have a ton of stories and things to go through because I really wasn't in the service center last week, unfortunately. When I was in there, it was incredibly frustrating for me. I'm used to being able to move around and do things and accomplish more than the average person. And not being able to do that was, like I said, it was very frustrating. And it wasn't anyone's fault or anything. It's just that. Oh, did I just blow it up? I don't know if I just blew up my feed or not. Okay. That's the problem of having too many keyboards in front of you guys. It looks like I'm still live, so that's good. It's not a knock on anybody else in the service center. It's just, wow, I went into Papillion and they were in queue. They had computers to get built, and they had customers and other service centers that were ordering computers. And the service centers were like, hey, guys, we're running low on computers. We know you've got them over there. We just need you to get them built. And literally, I was useless. I was worse than useless. And then I was tired. I was worse than useless, and it was like not. My wife's like, you just had surgery, Thor. Give yourself a little grace. Literally, you just had an organ removed, okay? I'm like, yeah, it's an organ that didn't do anything, though. It was like an extra. I didn't need it. So anyway, it was a little frustrating. All right, video is very choppy, unfortunately. Yeah. Please explain blockchain technology. Audio is good, though. Okay. So blockchain technology, guys, think about it like a ledger. So when you have something on a blockchain, whenever any change is made to the ledger, so if you have a bank account, like your statement, except now imagine that you have a statement for the entire bank, and it has everyone's account on it. So it doesn't say that Sally Smith is account number 12345. It just says there's an account 12345, and $20 million was pulled out of that account today, or yesterday, or last month, or the last hour. Literally, the blockchain is a public ledger where every change to the ledger is recorded publicly, and anybody can see it. Doesn't mean who's doing it, or that one person doesn't have 50,000 accounts at the same bank, for example. It just means that we can look at these accounts and we can see a lot of trends. So, for example, with blockchain technology, you hear a lot of places saying, FedEx is going to use the blockchain, blah, 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 blah. They don't necessarily mean Bitcoin. They mean the technology that Bitcoin is built upon. So the blockchain for FedEx, for example, would be for package tracking. Every time a package has some kind of an event, when it crosses a sensor or it's scanned, that adds another entry in the digital ledger in the blockchain. And then anybody can go track that package or find the history of that package by going to FedEx.com and typing in their tracking number, looking up the wallet ID for that package, and seeing all of its entries on the blockchain everywhere it went. It's really a neat way. Nothing gets lost, nothing gets taken. So if you imagine you had a unique ID, a serial number for every piece of electronics that came into an electronics store, you could literally track where every piece of electronics was in that store. And if it got sold, you could track that. And if it got used as a display model, you could track that. Everything that's done where you have to scan that barcode would be another event. So the blockchain has a lot of different possibilities. Think about it for medicine. Every patient is a wallet ID for their visit. Or every patient is a wallet, and then visits can have sub-IDs. There's all kinds of things that you can do with blockchain. It's basically a relational database. It's the same thing as a relational database. But calling it blockchain makes it cool and new and adds value to your stock price. So we're going to call it blockchain. So that's the blockchain. All right. There's a chip shortage and also an extreme shortage of Fahrenheits. Yes, Fahrenheits are very short right now. Let's see, and apparently my Celsius bank account is still positive. My Fahrenheit bank account is negative on the blockchain. Yeah, WHO has a pretty boss setup, Roger. But KFAB is improving. I've got they have a board that's not from the 1950s now. We've got literally, I had a little panic attack coming into the show because there was different things to plug into, and so all my old levels were blown up. I had to fix all that stuff. The computers are still pretty rough. The surge protectors, they got everything torn open. I can see the surge protectors that are powering everything that runs the radio station. They're literally flickering and flashing at me, which I know means there is no surge protection, right? We all know that. So I'm seeing that, and he's like, yeah, we need to get new counters because they have there's cough buttons and things that you can press when you have to cough, and they have them taped over with paper because you're supposed to use the new ones over here. But you got guys that have been working here for years. They're going to push these buttons, so they covered them up with paper. And I'm thinking, well, that's a high tech. And he's like, yeah, we're going to get him a new countertop at some point. And I'm like, well, maybe I could just have a countertop sent in and put Schrock logos all over it. It could be the Schrock countertop, and it would be in here forever, wouldn't it? I mean, I don't know who all would see it, but it would be in here forever. Scott's like, you send me a countertop, we'll talk about it. So. Yeah, one thing at a time. They got new mics, they got new board, they've got new headphone monitoring. The phone lines actually work now. The volume limiting thing that was happening on the over-the-air broadcast was the result of a caller who called in. His audio level was super hot, and so all the wonderful 21st century equipment was trying to normalize his volume, and it was also normalizing my volume, which is why things appeared to get old or to get quiet and loud again. What would be some safe apps for trading Bitcoin? It depends what you want to do with your Bitcoin. There's easy and there's safe. So I used to, when I was doing my Bitcoin trading, I used to use Bittrex, Bittrix, Bittrex. They're a Florida-based company. The problem is safe is a relative word. So nothing in the Bitcoin world is FDIC insured or SIPC insured. If you put a $50,000 Bitcoin into Bittrex for trading, and Bittrex goes out of business, your Bitcoin is gone. So safe is relative. Okay, the safest place to keep your Bitcoin is in your personal wallet on your computer or your phone. That's the safest place to keep your Bitcoin, and then back up your private key so that if you ever lose your phone or your computer dies, you can get your Bitcoin loaded onto another computer. I know that's Greek to half the people listening, or 3/4. There's a safe way to do it. If you're looking for the easy way to do it, you can trade Bitcoin now on, I think Venmo is going to start trading crypto here soon. You can do it right now in Robinhood. The only problem is you can't take your crypto off platform. So if you're going to day trade crypto and your objective there is to make a profit in US dollars and be able to take those US dollars into your bank account, Robinhood's a great app for that. If you're looking at wanting to possibly remove your crypto from the exchange at some point, then Robinhood would not be good. PayPal would not be good. Venmo would not be good. At that point, you want to go with a private wallet or a Coinbase. Or I keep my Bitcoin at BlockFi, the Bitcoin that I have, because it earns 6% interest there, and it's free money, right? I think I've earned about $4,000 in interest in the last year. Show me a savings account where I can earn $4,000 of interest. But again, how safe is it? It's not FDIC insured or anything like that. So if you really get off on the government safety thing, cryptocurrency is not going to be a comfortable place for you to be. But then again, cryptocurrency is incredibly volatile. I was thinking this morning, I have urges because I do trade occasionally, right? I try not to because I don't have the emotional fortitude for trading. I always think I get fear of missing out. I'm going to miss out. I need to get in, and I can resist it for a while, and then I end up caving. So I sold 3 Bitcoin right before the big jump to 42,000. So at 39-ish, I sold 3. And now it's pushing, 47 this morning, 48. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking about, all the money I could have, paper profit I could have had that I don't have. And I'm like, I just have to wait for it to come back down. I'm like, it will come back down, right? You got to remember, in the last year, Bitcoin was down to $3,000 at one point. It's incredibly volatile for those who are patient. The problem is you can. Well, there's a saying that's you can. What is it? The market can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. You know. So at some point you have to call it and call a loss and suck up your loss and move forward. But I'm not quite at that point yet. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend BlockFi for trading. Is kind of expensive. It's literally about I don't know $600-700 a trade to trade one Bitcoin. So it's expensive, but Binance is going to be. Last time I looked, anyway, Binance was 1.5 or not Binance. Bittrex was 1.5 or 2%. So what if it was 2% of like $50,000? Well, what 10% would be 5,000. So 1% would be 500. So $1,000. So it's about the same actually. So yeah, that's just kind of what it costs to trade. So realistically, if you're going to trade Bitcoin, you have to see a move of over $1,000 in price before it makes sense for you to buy or sell, because you're going to achieve very small profits, less than $100 if it moves 1,000. When it moves 2,000, that's when you get a lot of money, or 3,000, that's when you start making some money. Alrighty, yeah, Coinbase is literally the safest place if you're going to buy and sell Bitcoin. Coinbase is the safest place to do it everywhere. Their fees are higher though. What brand of router do you recommend? Several cell phones, couple of tablets, and a gaming system. I like TP-Link routers. That's what we sell in the service center. Make sure you get a wireless AC one. A lot of people are like, what about the Cox Panoramic Wi-Fi? The Cox Panoramic Wi-Fi is a mesh Wi-Fi system, and it's literally one of the worst pieces of technology from a technology perspective that you can get. Looking at it from a perspective of like, if your home is large enough that you need a mesh system to cover it, you can buy mesh systems. You don't have to go with Cox's panoramic system. The second thing is you can create your own mesh network with a bunch of cheap routers too. You just put them in access point mode, and literally that's all they're doing with a mesh network. So it's very inexpensive to do on your own, but yeah, I'd recommend TP-Link. Thank you, Carolyn. I appreciate the well wishes there. So yeah, I noticed on the show, it's like 3 comments, and someone's like the beard. So I don't know. I just, I hadn't shaved for a couple days before the appendix thing. And then, of course, the day of was completely lost. And the next day I didn't feel like getting out of bed. And so then I was 4 or 5 days in, and I'm looking at this, and I'm just like, I wonder how, I know I'm going to be out for a week, so let's see what happens. So I start growing it, and it's like, okay, it's got some white in it. I'm like, oh, it's going to be like I start to feel like my dad for a little bit. I'm wearing my comfy pants, because I can't wear regular pants. Because they're too tight in the waist. I've gained like 6 pounds. My wife keeps telling me it's water weight, but at some point you got to just fess up and say, no, it's all the stuff you were eating while you were taking narcotics. It's not just water weight. Oh, boy. It looks like we're having some connection difficulties here, guys, so we're doing our best to get everything going here. It's the internet. It is what it is. I keep moving my laptop further away from the new electronics in here, hoping it'll help, and I don't think it's helping. But anyway, so yeah, I can't wear pants because pants are too tight. I'm gonna probably try to put pants on tomorrow. I'm gonna try it and see what I can do. They just taped me shut with surgical tape, like the 3 laparoscopic incisions. Maybe they glued it too, but then they just taped it like with tape. I'm like, okay, I'm literally taped shut right now. There's no stitches or anything. I'm just taped shut. I'm sure it's fine. And so now the tape is starting to come off, and I'm like, okay, it's staying shut. Okay, I'm all right. And I'm worried that if I wear pants, that waistband rubbing on it is going to cause some aggravation to those incision sites. But we'll see. I'm up and I'm moving. And I was telling my wife, it's hard to believe, like 100 years ago, what did people do when they got appendicitis? And I'm like, well, they died. Yeah. It ruptured eventually, and you either survived the sepsis or you didn't. There you go. I'm like, wow, modern medicine, yay, good to be alive right now. 100 years from now, people are going to say, like, they cut you 3 times to do that? Yeah. It's swelling, not water weight. Okay, so maybe it's swelling. I don't know. I'm definitely swole, that's for sure. All righty. Let's see. I earned some free different other cryptocurrency on Coinbase and transferred it all to Bitcoin. Do you buy anything besides Bitcoin? Right now I don't get into all the altcoins. The only altcoin that really has any kind of actual use case is Ethereum. If you were going to own a coin aside from Bitcoin, I would own Ethereum, ETH. Be careful not to buy ETC. That's different. But Ethereum is one that is traded on Coinbase as well. It's a little cheaper. It's about $1,700 a coin, but it is at all-time highs at $1,700 a coin. I used to mine it back in 2017 with my graphics card, and it was like we were doing the happy dance when it went up to $400. So it's got some room to run. It's actually used for real things. It's basically when you hear about all this. If you heard about DeFi, distributed finance, how it's going to upend banks, it's like BlockFi is an example of that, where I can put my U.S. dollars into Bitcoin and put the Bitcoin into BlockFi and get paid interest. And yay, that's great. And I can't get that option from a bank anywhere. So what's happening is basically we're seeing a forced return to more sound money. And it's not going to happen overnight. But when it does catch fire, guys, it's going to catch fire fast. It could be a year from now. It could be 20 years from now. I don't know when it's going to happen. But when it happens, people who have some sound money, whether that's physical gold or silver that you purchased in your safe, whether that is cryptocurrency, something that, when I say sound money, everyone's going to say, well, crypto is not sound money. There's nothing sound about it. It's not like gold and silver. You're right. It's not backed by a physical anything. So when you have gold and silver, you're basically trading under the belief that gold and silver will always have a value, and that value will always be something that cannot be taken or degraded or taken away. Well, it can be degraded and it can be taken away, and eventually it will be zero. And everyone's like, what do you mean it'll be zero? Because, guys, I mean, I'm going to say eventually, 100, 200 years from now, 300 years from now, when we're mining space asteroids and things like that, there is so much gold and silver in the universe, it's not even funny. Literally, you find one golden asteroid or you find something like that, and the entire gold market is blown up. So gold and silver and other precious metals get their value because they are precious. They are hard to find. And as a result, people are willing to pay for them because it's hard to find it. Right now, go out and try to find some Bitcoin. It's hard to find. People will pay for it. They are paying for it. 50 grand a coin almost. You could have bought Bitcoin at $3,000 when COVID kicked off in March. Imagine if you had bought one Bitcoin in March. You would be sitting on a $43,000 profit right now if you bought that coin and forgot about it. $43,000 profit. You'd made an entire year's salary doing nothing. You can't do that on Wall Street as an individual. We've seen that. That's been proven. You can't make that kind of return. You can't make hedge fund-like returns as an individual. The system is just geared to not allow you to do that. The thing that's so attractive about cryptocurrency is it's a public ledger. The system is what it is. The rules are what they are, and everybody follows them. And the rules aren't enforced by a governing body. They're not enforced by politicians or governments of any kind. They're literally enforced by the rules themselves. These are the rules. This is like saying who enforces the law of gravity. Well, gravity enforces gravity. Who enforces Bitcoin? Bitcoin enforces Bitcoin. You don't have to buy Bitcoin. You can choose not to. And if you choose not to, there are perfectly other valid investments you can put your money into. Bitcoin is super freaking risky. You do not want to be in Bitcoin if you're near retirement, for example. Because I was sitting here this morning thinking about this, and this is what kind of got me on this kick. It's like, it's just going up and up. There's a new announcement. Tesla says they bought 1.5 billion in Bitcoin. This could be a vision of what's coming in the future for companies like Apple, who are sitting on billions of dollars of cash and have no productive use for it. They're getting charged to keep it in the bank. They continue to sell bonds to raise cash because they can, because why not, I guess. What if they had something they could do with that money? What if they put $10 billion into Bitcoin and the price doubled overnight when that came out in their 10K filing? Or what is it, 5K, 10K, I forget. In their stock filing, when they released that, because this Bitcoin that Tesla bought, they bought in December, and nobody noticed. And that leads me to wonder, who is watching the blockchain if nobody noticed $1.5 billion in Bitcoin going missing? Who is watching this? Well, a little bit here, a little bit there. People, every individual sold, they bought and sold, they traded, they took a little loss. Oh, I shouldn't trade anymore. And then, Tesla scooped up 1.5 billion in Bitcoin. Well, as soon as that became public, the price of Bitcoin jumped $5,000. Wow. So now as a company, what this is showing is if I'm a big company that can, for Apple to buy like $10 billion in Bitcoin, it's like 3 days operating, or I don't know. Somebody said to buy what Tesla bought, it was like 3 days of operating capital or something, of operating cash flow. And Apple could buy that much Bitcoin. And if the price goes up $10,000, Apple sits on a huge profit. Now here's the thing, and this is the fear of missing out that everyone's getting in right now because they're afraid they're going to miss out. Eventually this is going to correct. And I keep telling myself that because I'm still 3 Bitcoin in cash right now, and I'm like, it's going to correct. Don't be impatient. Wait for it to correct. It will correct. And when it does correct and drop down below 40,000 again at some point, or below 30,000 at some point, or below 25,000 at some point, I'll be really glad I'm sitting on some cash to buy some Bitcoin, and I'll be able then to realize a profit on my trade. But it's not a loss until you book it, right? So anyway, it's I don't recommend day trading it. I don't recommend. I'm definitely in the camp of just buy it and hold it because it is going to. Okay, here's the thing. It's going to go like this, right? But it's going to go up. As it goes up, at the end of the day, this is like buying an index fund. At the end of the day, if you know it's going to go up, if you believe it's going to go up, at the end of the day when it goes up, does it matter what it did in the middle? Yeah, you could have, if you bought and sold every peak and trough, you could have made a ton more money. That's a lot harder to do, though, than to just buy it and forget you have it and come back 2 years later and be sitting on, again, if Tesla buys $1.5 billion of Bitcoin in December at roughly 35,000 a Bitcoin, and it's 150,000 a Bitcoin at the end of the year, which is the top estimate, top reliable estimate. There's some crazy stuff, but the stock to flow model says it could be as high as 150 at the end of the year. Did Tesla just erase all the debt of their company if they sell that Bitcoin? If Tesla is a debt-free company with their technology and infrastructure going forward, can you imagine what that will do to their stock price? If other companies believe, like Elon does, that Bitcoin is going to do this, they are going to see this as a huge opportunity to make up for a lost year on COVID, a huge opportunity to raise free cash flow. But the problem is you've got to have somebody willing to buy when you go to sell. So as long as it keeps going up and you want to sell some, not a problem. If it's going down because people are selling, that's a different ballgame. The other thing is, I'm not so certain that Apple has the same risk tolerance that Elon does for things. I think Apple is a very stable, mature company that they're just going to keep doing what they do and doing it well and innovating and moving forward. Whereas Tesla's like, let's drill a tunnel to the moon, woo, and crazy stuff. So anyway, it's going to be interesting to watch. I would definitely recommend that you have some though. What you can afford to do. What you can afford to lose, basically. It's a very speculative bet. It's like buying a barrel of oil and keeping it in the backyard until you think it's worth enough that you want to sell it. But I'll guarantee you, and one of the things that's crazy about cryptocurrency is it exists on the blockchain forever. As long as you have that private key, Bitcoin private key, write Bitcoin private key and write the key down and then put that in your safe, okay? Then it doesn't matter what device you have it on, because any device you have it on, you can install Bitcoin Core or whatever wallet on any other device, put in the private key, and you've got your Bitcoin back. You got access to it. That's all you have to do. But if you don't have the private key and you pass away, and somebody takes your laptop and recycles it at Schrock with Bitcoin on it, it's just gone forever. And that's one thing that people don't understand is, unlike printed money, that they can always just print more, right? Bitcoin has a limited issuance, and Bitcoin is lost every day. The more Bitcoin that gets lost, the more valuable every other Bitcoin is. because they can't just issue more Bitcoin to replace the stuff that's even lost. So when you read that there's 21 million Bitcoin that will ever be in existence, this is true, but roughly 7% of that has already been lost. So yeah, that's bad. Who knows what happened to the Bitcoins that bought a pizza back in the day? Alrighty, let's see. Take naps when you need to clear your mind. Definitely. Gold has been around for 6,000 years. That's right. And space travel has been around for about 100. And imagine in 500 years that you're going to be able to eliminate 6,000 years of monetary history because you found one asteroid rich in precious metals somewhere. The question is, if you find that, I mean, my dad used to tell me that there are so many diamonds in Russia, like in the ground in Russia, that if they dug them up, they would destroy the market for diamonds overnight. So they dig them up and they keep them, basically, and they release them slowly so that they can keep the prices up. And I don't know if that's true or not. But if you found a golden nugget floating through space, right, and in that golden nugget, would you like, yay, I found a golden nugget? Because then the price of gold is like, so maybe you just like quietly mine your golden nugget and release it slowly. I don't know. But there are other metals out there that are doing better than gold. Things like palladium that are in extreme shortage right now, and then it's used in batteries too. So I bought silver with a small part of my inheritance 5 years ago at $14. It's now over 27, but I'm not selling yet. Yeah, I remember silver got up to 40 at one point, and I was like, whoo, I wish I'd have sold at 40 and bought back in at 27. But that's the peaks and the troughs. Now, the problem is 5 years ago, if you would have put $14 in Bitcoin, what was the price 5 years ago? I'm trying to think back. It's probably $1,000 or something. You'd have been able to buy like 0.001 Bitcoin for $14. Well, now that would be worth, your $14 would be worth like $1,400 now. So, yeah, the problem is every asset class has gone up over the last 5 years, right? What has gone down? Even oil has, the drop was more than 5 years ago. So even oil has gone up in the last 5 years. So everything has gone up in 5 years. So it's hard to look at assets. You can compare different returns on assets, but if you compare gold and silver to the stock market indexes, it's completely underperforming. The problem is it's so manipulated. The gold and silver ETFs manipulate the price of gold and silver so much, it's hard to know what it's really worth. What I do know is that if I try to go to Ampex or the Treasury and actually buy silver coins, they're out of stock, or they want you can't buy a silver coin for $27. You're going to pay $35 for it because there's a premium because so many people want to buy them right now because everybody sees what's going on in the economy, and it's like a game of musical chairs, and it's a lot of fun while you're playing, and then eventually the music stops and everybody in a chair is fine, but there's going to be some people who don't get chairs, and those people are going to be real unhappy. The question is, how many chairs are there going to be? Is there just going to be one chair left and 15 people, or is it going to be just one person standing there at the end? Because this isn't going to end well. Depending on ending well would be prices coming down and your retirement accounts going up in value, and you can actually save money in a savings account and earn a respectable amount of interest on it. That's how things have been historically for 5,000 years, right? You save money and you earn interest on your money when you lend it. That's not how the world works right now, and I'm not sure that that's going to change anytime soon. So you have to live in the current world. You can't just stick your head in a hole, keep stacking, right? Because you'll turn a profit, but nowhere near the profit you would have turned if you would have stuck your toe in the other game. So the thing is diversification. So you get a little bit of gold, a little bit of silver, a little bit of crypto, a little bit of stocks, bonds. I don't even know why you'd buy bonds right now. And if things go to negative interest rates, that's when things are going to get really wonky, wonkier. And it's just the next crisis away, right? We're just waiting for the next crisis for that to happen. Public ledger, but private transactions, and you can't counterfeit Bitcoin. The fees for transactions are usually cheaper in large transactions. The Warren Buffetts of the world hate crypto because it undercuts the money they make with. Yeah, that's a very succinct description of Bitcoin, Brad. February 2016, Bitcoin was $391. Oh my gosh. So let's see. If you would have, let me get my calculator out here. If you would have bought $14 of Bitcoin, $391 divided by 14. Oh, is that what? No, that's not right. 14 divided by 391. That's right. You would have had 0.0358 Bitcoin. And we're going to multiply that times the current Bitcoin price, which at this moment, the current Bitcoin price is $49,029. $49,029. So if you would have bought with $14, 1 ounce of 1 ounce of silver and held, you'd have $1,755 today. And at $27 an ounce, you could buy another 65 ounces of silver for your stack. So, it's hard to argue with that. So anyway, that's fun times. Thank you for the quick price quote, though, Brad. All right, last call for questions, guys. We're going to wrap this one up here. I'm starting to sweat, which is really weird. I don't usually sweat while I'm doing the show, and it's actually really cool in here. So I think I might be pushing myself a little bit. So I want to make sure that that I can go into work for a little bit tomorrow at least. I'm gonna go into the Papillion Service Center a little bit. I'm not gonna drive all the way to Des Moines. The long car ride, especially in an F-350 with the jostling, isn't feeling so good. But I think I'm gonna go into Papillion for a bit, and I can build laptops. I can do some smaller things like that. I can be a positive force for good. As opposed to sitting on my duff all day long playing, computer games. All right. Yeah, John, the musical chairs thing, it's how it's going to go. It's just the challenge, though, is it's musical chairs on a global scale. I'm seeing a lot of articles about stagflation recently, that basically we're going to be living in a low interest environment with a moderate inflation environment. So in other words, your saved money can't generate income, and your cost of living is going to go up. So incomes are stagnant, cost of living goes up, you have stagflation. That was a real big problem when Reagan took office. We were stuck in like a stagflation trap, basically. They also call it the Japanification of America. Japan has been in a stagflation environment for the last 20 years almost. It's been crazy. They've tried Abenomics. They've tried everything to try to bust their way out, but it just seems they can't seem to spend enough money to get out of that stagflation trap. And no one has thought about, well, what if we stop spending money? And then, well, you can't do that. Everything will collapse. Yeah, it's pain, but then the pain leads to a healthier so it's like burning the field, basically. None of the grass likes that. None of the weeds like that. But afterward, the soil is rich and everything can come back up and be strong again. The problem is, we've been literally letting the field run wild for so long now that the pain just gets worse the longer you let it go, unfortunately. I remember watching a period piece with my wife. What was the royalty show? Was it? I can't think of the name of it now. It's probably something stupid like The Queen or something. They just did this. The last season was Charles and Diana's time in there, and they had Margaret Thatcher, and they did a good job. They didn't vilify her, excuse me, entirely, but they did a good job of painting her as somebody who is like very steadfast. Like, unfortunately, there's going to be some pain, and we're going to have to live through that pain. And then people are like, "You're my livelihood," blah, 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 blah. We have to live through the pain. It's very, very reminiscent of what's happening right now with the Keystone Pipeline. You just got to live through that pain. I thought it was great. Somebody in the White House press corps actually asked the press secretary, where can people who are right now today being laid off from their jobs on the Keystone Pipeline, where can they apply for the green job? Like, where is the job posting so that they can go apply for it? And she's like, well, I was like, oh my goodness. The Crown, there we go. Thank you, Kim. The Crown, yeah. So The Crown was that show. So anyway, that's a good show. If you're looking for a Netflix thing to watch for a while and you're into period pieces, The Crown is pretty good. There are, I think, 3 or 4 seasons of it, so it's pretty good. It goes through, each season covers a different period of history. And so it's kind of neat to watch it. So like the 80s were you see all the haircuts and stuff, and the whole Princess Di thing. I was just a kid when that was going on, so I didn't understand a lot of what was happening. So it was interesting to rewatch it and get the historical perspective. Well, historical with the fictionalized historical perspective of that. And just imagine what people are going to write about the fictional historical perspective of what's gone on in the last 10 years. It's going to be nuts. All right. Going to wrap it up, guys. I got Scott working on getting me a better internet connection here for next week. He's going to get with the engineers and get that. I ran some speed tests, which is why it took me a little bit longer to get on. My upload speed is 1.7 megabits per second, which is barely enough to hold a video conversation. That's your phone. I'm broadcasting in full HD, and your phone, which does not broadcast in full HD, has about that connection on it. My hotspot on my phone was slightly faster, but not so much faster that I thought I would risk an LTE connection to to do this. So hopefully you were all able to get something from it. The video wasn't too bad. We'll see you all again next weekend. Have a great day.